We are going to step through some of the other textbook source code files, and my intention was to run them all for you, but my computer is acting up today. So we're just going to take a look at a few of these. This one is program 5-20, and you need the fstream, pound include fstream, in your pound includes in order to get this to run. This one is going to create an ifstream, which is an input file. And it's going to actually process the file that we just created, the sales.txt in the previous example, but instead of writing to the file, it's going to read from the file. On this one, because it's created as an ifstream, when it opens it here, it is not going to erase or delete the file, unlike the last program where if you were doing the OF stream, it would actually delete the file. This one is going to look for the file and then it's going to open it. We are supposed to use some error trapping, and that will be introduced a little bit later. So for right now, if you get your programs working, we can add the error trapping a little bit later to prevent some errors from occurring. In this one, we also ask the user to input the number of days, and we just have a for loop that processes through that. And then we have input file. Instead of like a cin, we just use input file like a cin, and we input, and it reads in one item at a time up to the white space character. If we actually go back to that sales data, that white space character could be a space, or in this case it's the return. So it hits the end of the line and then it knows it's going to read the next file. And so in this loop, when it does input file, it reads up to basically what it recognizes as the end of a input stream. And in this case, it's either going to be a space or it's going to be an end of line. And in our example, it was an end of line. And then it totals up the sales, and then it has to close the program. Not close the program, but close the data file. So you again see this process of opening, processing, and then closing. And this one is an example of reading the data in. The next example, program 5-21. So this is program 521 from your textbook. And this program, I believe, does both, but I'm not sure. So it says up here, this program uses a loop to read in values from a file until the end of the file is reached. So this one actually uses some of the information that's in chapter 13. It uses it uses some what they call flag values to determine if there's actually more data in the file. And that is done with this loop right here. And this is actually one way that you can kind of error trap in some respects so you don't go beyond the end of the file. And so what's going to happen with this, you set it up the same way as the previous program where you have an if stream. This one is number of days is going to be set at 0, and we're going to total sales is set at 0, and then we input file.open sales.txt. All that's the same. What's different is this line of code right here. And what happens is the input line that we did here in the previous program, input sales, is actually inside the while statement. And what will happen is this will return a true or a false value based upon whether or not there was another piece of data there. So if there was a value there, if the value was red, this is going to be true, and I can go ahead and total it, and I can add the number of days. So what's nice about this program is I don't have to have the user manually enter the number of days. I am just going to know the number of days based upon the data in the file, which is actually a more typical application of reading data files and working with data files. And this one also has then the close for the input file. The last program we're going to look at is actually from chapter 6, and this one is a program that reads a set of daily temperatures. It displays them. It demonstrates how to pass a file to a function, and then the function argument, which is a file stream object, must be passed by reference. And so this is showing you how to pass a file, and it's also indicating that it has to be passed by reference, which is why we have the ampersand here. Okay? So in this program, we're creating it, well, we still need to do the pound include fstream up here. We have an ifstream object. We're going to read data in. This is another error trapping trick, and this error trapping trick is the same as the last one in the respect that this produces a certain flag value, and is basically going to say if the data file does not exist, then we can't open it, so we should tell the user that there's a mistake. And so this data So actually that's different than the one before. Sorry about that. This one is actually, they're not testing to see if the data file opened correctly at all. This one's assuming the data file opened correctly, and then you're going ahead and read the data in till the very end. This is the next level. This is going to be, I will expect you to do something like this with your exemplary program, and that you have to check to see if the file actually opened, and that's using this .fail flag, okay? Or .fail method. That produces a flag value. Then we're going to read the data and data in. So notice right here that I'm passing data in to this function. And if I scroll down, the data in method is going to be reading the file, and we send it data in. Data in gets sent down here as an ifstream object, and it's a pass by reference some file. We have a local variable temperature, and now I'm going to read until the end of the file. This is that little bit of a reading. This is basically just saying while not at end of file is what it's doing. So that's like while not EOF is what we would say. So as long as I'm not at the end of the file, then I am going to go ahead and execute that code, and it's going to output the temperatures. So it reads a value in and it outputs it. It reads a value and outputs it. Reads a value and outputs it. Okay? But it's demonstrating that you can pass the data file to a function, but it has to be passed by reference in this example. Those are the, and then the weather project, just so you know, this was the data in the weather file that this one was accessing. And I wanted to show it to you because it's showing white space as a delimiter. So one of the other programs we worked with, it was like we hit enter in order to introduce the white space. On this one, it actually has white space. So it will read in up to the white space, and then it keeps the marker there, and it reads into the next white space, and then it reads to the next white space, etc. And that's how it actually reads this data in for this particular program. All right, that gives you pretty much the basics for data files. You have to play around with them on your own. So look at these programs from the textbook, excuse me, and also look at the links, especially to the C++.com website that provides you more information about data files. They have a very nice summary of data files on that website.